Well, we want to get into today's message, and this sort of wraps up the whole series that we've been going through during the month of September. And I want to start with what to me has been the most impactful and life-changing word that I have ever read at the beginning of a book. And it's this very simple line: it's not about you. It's not about you. Rick Warren wrote that as the very first line of his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, or what some of you may remember the title was changed to, What on Earth Am I Here For? And in that opening chapter, what Rick does is he reminds us that the purpose of our life is greater than our own personal fulfillment. It is greater than our happiness, and it is greater than accumulating riches or acclaim. So it's not about you. Maybe you want to tell the person that you're sitting near today that this is not about you, okay? There are a lot of people who go through life and never really discover their purpose in life, okay? These are people that I think sort of just react to life, well, whatever comes my way, whatever comes next, well, that's where I'll find myself, and wherever the next wave carries them, that's where they happen to go. But I think that purpose is not about reacting to life as much as it is intentionally pursuing the reason that there is breath in your lungs. And that reminds me of something important to say this morning, and that is, as long as you have breath in your lungs, you have a purpose. It doesn't matter how old you are, you still have a purpose. But that breath that's in your lungs is not for you alone. That breath has been given to you so it can sustain your life, so you can make a difference in the lives of someone else. Because after all, a life that is only lived for yourself is a life that is shallow. But a life that ends up being lived for other people, a life that is lived purposefully, it is a full and meaningful life. And it was Jesus' intention that you and I have a full and meaningful life. That's what he spoke about in John 10:10 when he said that he had come to give life and to give life to the full. And so that, I believe, means that we have to live with purpose. We have to live each and every day with the intention of making a difference with this life that God has given to us. Now, that naturally leads to the question of the day, and that is, how do I know, how do I discover what is the purpose of my life? How do I understand how I can make a difference in somebody else's life? Well, I think we've been talking about it all month long. We've been talking about these three big questions, and as we look at those questions, I think the answer has been staring us in the face all along. Now, it starts with the verse that we looked at from Romans 12:2 that says, "Don't let the world squeeze you into its mold, but let God transform your mind from within." And finding your purpose in life doesn't come from the world, okay? The world would like to define your purpose by its terms, but what we need to do is we need to allow God to define our purpose as God transforms our lives from the inside out. Now listen, the reality that we all know is that we are born into a selfish world. Just ask anybody who has a 2-year-old, right? Maybe a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, maybe a 16-year-old, okay? Am I right? We are born into this world selfishly. And what does the world do? The world continually tries to mold us into being people who are selfish. And that's the world's mold. What can I get for myself? But you see, Jesus offers a different purpose, and that purpose is focused on using your life for the benefit of others. So the first step in discovering your purpose is to begin the process of transformation that happens from the inside out through a relationship with Jesus Christ. As Andy Stanley says, and I like to say this as well, following Jesus will make your life better, and it will make you better at life. Following Jesus will make your life better and will make you better at life. I believe that, and I think that as you build that relationship with Jesus, you'll find that is true as well. So the first thing is to discover your purpose. Don't be squeezed by the world, but be transformed. The second thing, knowing your purpose flows from knowing your true identity. Now, in this first of the three big questions that we looked at, we said that knowing who you are is essential. You have to know your identity. See, the culture wants to form your identity with a bunch of outward measurements. You know, are you rich enough? Are you beautiful enough? All of these outward things. But what happens? What happens when all those outward things, when all that outward success doesn't materialize? When your life isn't always up and to the right? What do you fall back on? Because if all those things were your identity, well, when they're not there, who are you? But when you know that you are a person created in the image of God, when you know that you are a unique, purposefully created, loved eternally child of God, that never changes. That never, ever changes. And your purpose in life flows from these things that are consistently true in your life. They're not outward things. These are all internal things. They're not temporary things. These are eternal truths that will be the same today, tomorrow, and forevermore. And they are truths that define you. And they are truths that should inspire you to make a difference in the world. Last week we talked about the importance of belonging and knowing where you fit into life. And knowing how you fit in life is really important in terms of discovering your purpose in life. Because, you see, our purpose is often identified in discovering how our shape fits into a bigger picture that God is trying to paint. And so I think the big thing for us to understand today is that when you find where you fit in a community, then you begin to understand the way that you have been uniquely gifted, the way that you have been uniquely called, and you begin to understand how you can assist others in filling in the bigger picture, the bigger purpose. I mean, the church is a perfect example of that, because when you become a part of a church, when you belong to a community of faith, it's not for you, it's for one another. And in addition, then we benefit a larger community. But the same is true of all of us, because all of us find ourselves planted in a larger community, your neighborhood, the place where you work. And when you find yourself in that community, that's where you find your place of belonging, but more importantly, you find an invitation to use your unique life experience, your gifts and talents, your resources, all to benefit other people. Now, I think the best way to understand this is if you look at a puzzle, okay? A puzzle that's all finished except for one piece. I mean, when you look at a puzzle and there's one piece missing, doesn't it just make you go, You just want to know where that last piece of the puzzle is. And the longer you look at that, puzzle, the more you just go, I can't stand it. Where's the puzzle? I can't see the whole picture because I don't see that that one piece. But then you begin to discover something, and that is that your passions and your abilities, your talents and your relationships, they all come together. Well, they all come together to form that missing piece of the puzzle. And when you begin to see that God created you and shaped you in such a unique way that you complete the puzzle, then you discover your purpose. Then you answer the question, what difference can I make in the world? Well, I'm excited for you to hear from our three guests this morning. We want to welcome Cheryl Hornung, Floyd Stokes, and Ross Willard. So y'all want to come on up here. We'll get some chairs for you and some microphones. Come on up here. All right, Cheryl, you got microphone number 2. Floyd, you got microphone number 3. And pardon me walking in front of you. Ross, you got microphone number 4. So let's just start by inviting each of you to sort of introduce yourselves and let everybody know about the organization that you're a part of. So, Cheryl, of course, Ross is looking at you again.
My name's Cheryl Hornung. I'm married. I'm a mother with 3 girls. I'm the founder and director of a charity called Caitlin Smiles. We provide arts and craft kits to children in hospitals.
Good morning. My name is Floyd Stokes, and I'm the founding director of the American Literacy Corporation, and we promote reading to children.
I'm Ross Willard. I'm with Recycle Bicycle. I found it, and we give away thousands of bikes, and we love teaching kids how to fix their own bikes.
All right. Well, we want to welcome each of you and thank you for the way that you have discovered your purpose and how you are changing people's lives. And I know that everybody may know a little bit about some of your programs, but one of the things that I think is important is everybody has an origin story. Every organization that exists has a story about how you started. So would you just share a little bit about your origin story and talk about how you answer that question of what kind of a difference can I make? So how does that evolve out of that origin story? So Cheryl, we'll let you start.
My origin story is that I lost my daughter Caitlin to a brain tumor when she was 7 years old. We had spent 3.5 years in 4 different children's hospitals in 4 different states. And for Caitlin, art was a very positive distraction in the hospital. And I knew that if we were going to a hospital, she'd probably be up in the night, go into the playroom would be locked and closed, and I really needed something to do to keep her mind occupied. So arts and crafts supplies were very important to us. I started our charity out in my spare bedroom at home, moved to the basement, the garage. We started out by working with Penn State Children's Hospital in 2004 and gave them 10 bags of smiles in 1 month. They referred us to Harrisburg Hospital, who called a couple days later and wanted free arts and craft supplies. Harrisburg told York Hospital, York wanted free arts and crafts. One of my volunteers was taking her grandson to Shriners Children's in Philly, who heard we had free arts and craft supplies, and so on and so on. We have reached over 2.2 million children in 17 years because of my wonderful volunteers.
You got a green light? Uh-oh.
I got a green light.
There you go. All right. There we go.
I was thinking this morning I didn't have my own mic. That's how you know you've arrived, when you get your own mic. No, so I was born and raised in the Mississippi Delta, and after I graduated from high school, I joined the Army. I jumped out of a perfectly good plane, so that'll make you question me. I was airborne. But after the Army, my last duty station was Carlisle Barracks, and I got out of the military and opened up my own business, a music store, and I had that for 10 years, downtown Carlisle. But what I found is that I spent more time outside of my business volunteering for organizations and the community than I did spending time at my music store. So I decided that I would do something, find something that I could do full-time serving the community. In 2000, I found the American Literacy Corporation, and we promote reading to children various ways. I'm also a children's book author. I've written over 20 children's books and go to schools, libraries, community events to read to children, giving out books as well. And give a shout out to Donna DeVersa, she's volunteered for me. And when the pandemic hit, what do? We're not face-to-face anymore. So we started a program called Reading 365, October 1st. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary. We've read every single day online, Zoom, and launched at Facebook every single day since October 1st. We've had some special programs. New Year's Eve, we read for 12 hours. For my birthday, we read 24 hours. And I want to thank George and Taylor and the support of the church for your support as well. And we have the summer camp, writing camp. We were able to use Ray's Place this summer, and I thank you again for that. So there's some of our programs that we do. Thank you.
All right.
Recycle Bicycle, okay, it sort of started with me. I fixed a lot of things as a kid, I guess. In other words, mechanical engineering is what I studied. I worked mechanical jobs. But at the same time, I married a wonderful lady by the name of Ruth Willard. And we were part of March for Jesus, and we did strange things. Instead of going to Easter service, it was too crowded, you couldn't find a seat, we went out and fed people. So in doing so, I'm sitting in this van in the city of Harrisburg, and unfortunately there are people who want to steal the pocketbooks of the ladies serving them and the food, the extra food. And so I was securing the back tailgate, and while I'm handing out the bags of food, I'm watching kids go down the hill, and they have no brakes. And it's like, dear God, if I don't fix their brake, they could die. If I don't give them food, they can live for 3 weeks. They can go anywhere and get water. But without brakes, it could be the end of the story here. So I reach in the back of the bike, the bike's there, has a little toolkit in the back of it, and I pull out and I start fixing bikes. The tool bag became a tool chest, the tool chest became the whole van, the van became a trailer, and then it became a warehouse. Before, though, we borrowed a whole bunch of buildings in the city that were condemned and moved around, but we fix a lot of bikes. We give away thousands of bikes a year, including overseas, but we teach a lot of people how to have sustainable transportation and to get forward in life. So that's Recycle Bicycle, and you can always Google that and find more information.
All right. So, do each of you have a favorite story of how your program has made a difference in a person's life? So, Cheryl, you get to start all the time, Cheryl.
My new favorite story that happened to me last week, and actually Becky was volunteering. I had a young lady come in and dropped off a piece of artwork. I've got a big art auction fundraiser on Sunday. And talking to this young lady, she's 20, We found out she and her grandmother over the summer had made cards, decorated bags, and done craft kits for us, but she wanted to do more, so she did a painting for us. Here she was a brain cancer survivor. She was diagnosed at the age 13, went through treatment at CHOP in Philly, as well as Penn State Children's Hospital. She's blind in one eye, lost her smell, her taste, and artwork for her has been very important in the hospital. She got our supplies. She loved our supplies while in the hospital, and she's starting to give back. And her piece of art is just a beautiful, it looks kind of like a tie-dye piece of art that she rolled beads in paint and did this beautiful swirl, because for her, colors were very important, because she lost her sense of the color perception while in the hospitals, and it's just starting to come back. It was just very touching.
Floyd?
Well, about 15 years ago, I was at a reception, and I saw, we were mingling around, and I saw this lady. She was staring at me, and I'm like, And finally, she came over to me, and she's like, "You're Floyd Stokes, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "My son entered one of your essay contests when he was in elementary school. He, since then, has gone on to college and graduated, but he majored in something that had to do with writing because he won that essay contest, and it sparked an interest in him." I was at the Jonas Brother concert 2 days ago. Don't hold it against me. Please don't judge me. Please don't judge me. I have kids. So I took my daughters, and I'm sitting there, and I see this young lady, and I told my daughters, I said, "I know this young lady." And I kept, it bugged me, and finally I had my daughter touch her on the shoulder. I said, "Do we know each other?" And she's about 20-something. She's like, "No, I don't think so." Fast forward, I asked her, "Where you from?" She said Harrisburg. And then I said, "What's her name?" And she told me her name. I said, "Okay." Then it meant something. Then I told her my name. I said, "I'm Floyd Stokes." She said, "Oh, the neighborhood center of the United Methodist Church is where I knew her from." She had a really, really rough childhood, single mom, and she would go to the neighborhood center often, and I served on the board for about 10 years. And I said, "So what are you doing?" She said, "I'm in college." I said, "What are you majoring in?" She said, "Chemical engineering." You guys are making a difference. Huge difference.
Thank you.
I have lots of stories, so we'll vary it from the other service. Then, our shop has been pretty cruddy. I mean, it's been abandoned buildings up until now. And 2 homeless guys came in. They said, "Can we get free bikes here?" And I said, "Yep." You either put them together, but I had some ready to go. And I said, "Load the scrap trailer." So in 93-degree heat, these guys load this trailer, and they're sweating up a storm. So they get a free bike. The one guy comes back, we'll call him Mr. Fish, and he starts helping out. And my organizational skills are a little funny. He says, "This place could really use some cleaning." And he was sort of volunteering. I said, "Well, here's a key to the building, but you can't live here. My insurance and the owner of the building." So I have this guy coming in, fixing bikes, but living underneath the 83 bridge. And he says, "Hey, I'm going to have visitation with my sons." Wait a minute, he's homeless. He's going to get visitation. His sons are going to come to town from York County. His ex-wife is going to drop him off, and they're going to live in the basement of Grace Methodist Church for the weekend, downtown Harrisburg. And he wants to have bicycles for them. So he builds 2 bikes. And for that weekend, the family was reunited. They rode bikes all over the place, ripped his legs off, as he says. And so eventually we helped him get a job fixing the bicycles downtown at the bike taxis and the apartment, and then he went back to doing high vac. But we used the bicycle as a vehicle to move people back into society. And so my purpose is helping other people find their purposes at times.
That's a beautiful story. So, y'all inspire me, okay? Because, Cheryl, you've taken tragedy and turned it into something that just brings hope and joy to so many people. Ross, you remind us that you can take what somebody else wants to throw away and you repurpose it. You not only do that with bicycles, you do it with people's lives. And Floyd, you give us the basics, you know. You teach, you help kids learn how to read and learn how to write, and you know that's the foundation of an education. And I just, you know, I said I'm inspired by the three of you, and I hope that when I get, you know, grown up, that I will be as inspirational. But what would you say to somebody who's trying to figure out, you know, what's my purpose in life? I mean, from your experience, how do you know that this was my purpose? And what would you say to somebody out here today who's just trying to figure out what's my purpose?
Everybody's looking at me again to go first. My purpose was through my daughter, Caitlin, and I think it really hit me. In the middle of the night, I'd often hear her moving and talking, and one night I finally went in to see if she was okay, because often she had bad nosebleeds or something, would have to get her to the hospital quick. I opened her door, I said, "Caitlin, are you okay?" And she said, "Shh, Mom, I'm talking to God." And she always did this, and I just felt so blessed that she had such a close relationship. And it wasn't until years later that I lost her that I realized the calling was also meant to me. That in Caitlin's memory, yes, we could continue the good work, we could provide arts and crafts to spread smiles to kids in hospitals. So hopefully your calling, you won't be hit with something as hard as me, but just listen, have faith. You know, if it's meant to be, if you've got faith to do it, there's plenty of good people out there that'll come running like John and Becky and say, "I'm in, I want to help the kids."
Him sitting in the front is so interesting. Isn't that awesome? Can we give him a hand? That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I would say find opportunities to serve various organizations, various fields, and find your passion and have a sincerity in what you do, and not a selfish motive. Just like, you know, the Rick Warren's opening line is not about me. It's about helping that person. Nothing else matters. I don't want to thank you. I don't want money. I do this for free. I think that would make a difference.
And God is training you. I found Jesus when I was probably 14. My father had influence. He said, "Get a job, crooks are in jail." A few words. But my mother, who worked full-time, said, "Come with me." And we went and volunteered at the old Harrisburg insane asylum. And so she put me on that travel of looking for these opportunities to serve. And I married a wonderful lady by the name of Ruth, and she presented more opportunities. And so a lot of times I'll sit in meetings with a whole bunch of pastors, and they're like, "And what are you doing here?" "Well, I can preach, but I'll pull out a wrench and say, but I'm here to fix things." Because I studied engineering in college, and I worked mechanical jobs, and I used that to not just recycle the bicycles. He named it right. It's recycle people, repurpose, because the pieces will fall together. If you'd asked me 20 years ago when I was at the railroad, what are you going to do when you retire? You know, get a speedboat or whatever. It's like, no, I'm equipped to do more than that. So I left the railroad early, and it's like, what? I've got minions. I have no idea how many other volunteers come to my facility. In other words, I'm not always there. The phone rings yesterday. They asked for guidance, and I say, go and do. And that's what we do. We go and do.
Well, thank you. I want to thank each of you for coming and sharing your stories. And I want to encourage all of you, check them out when the service is over. If you have your Bible app, there's a link to each of their organizations. You can always click on there and find out more information about how you can volunteer, right, or how you can get involved. So would y'all thank them? Oh, you can just leave your chair there. That's fine. Thank you. So I want to wrap things up this morning by just reminding you that, when you know your purpose, when you know what's important in your life, that will help you to make wise decisions. That will help you to know what's most important in your life in terms of where you focus your time and where you invest your resources, not just financial, but relationships and all of those things. And most of all, when you remember that your purpose is not about you. You see, making a difference in the world is never about you. It is always about the other people. You know, I hear stories all the time about, kids who want to grow up and, make something, develop something, sell it to Facebook and make billions of dollars and, retire by the time they're 30. Well, if the only thing you have as a purpose in life is to be able to retire by the age of 30 and, have millions of dollars laying around that you don't know what to do with, that's going to be a pretty shallow life. Because what kind of a difference did you make? Whose life did you really change? Because you see, that's what it's all about. It's about changing a person's life. I mean, when you think about it, this is what Jesus taught us, and this is what Jesus modeled for us. Stop and just think about it for a moment. I mean, Jesus' life was all about fulfilling the purpose of God for his life. He told us in John 10:10, he said, Mark 10:35, I did not come to serve, but to give my life as a ransom for others. And he modeled it. I mean, Jesus modeled it so wonderfully when he washed his disciples' feet. And then he looked at them and he said, listen, just as I have loved you, just as I have served you, that's what you are called to do. You are called to love and serve one another. And so if you want to understand who you are, if you want to understand where you belong, if you want to understand your purpose in life, it begins with that relationship with Jesus Christ. Because that's where all these answers come from. Our identity, where we belong, our purpose in living, they all find their origin in that relationship with Jesus, who taught us all of these principles. And so the sooner you and I discover that we are put on this earth to be a blessing to others, the sooner we will truly understand who we are, where we fit, and our full purpose in life. Would you join me in a word of prayer? Lord Jesus, we thank you. We thank you for the lives that are being touched and those that are going to continue to be touched in the days and weeks, months, and years to come. Because people like Floyd and Ross and Cheryl have chosen to understand and fulfill their purpose in life. And Lord, I thank you for the people that we can each touch individually because we understand our purpose. So Lord, if we're still struggling to understand the purpose that you've called us and created us for, help us to begin that transformation inside. Help us to find those missing pieces of the puzzle where we can fit in and begin to fulfill that picture that's there. And most of all, Lord, help us to make a difference in the lives of others. We pray it out in Jesus' name. Amen.